The Caledonian Sleeper is a luxurious experience. From the meals served in the club car, to the comfortable beds, and the broken AC. Today, I'll be spending almost 13 hours on what is the longest sleeper train journey you can take in the UK, from the British capital London, all the way to Fort William in the stunningly scenic Scottish Highlands. Now let's get this show on the rails! London Euston is the English home of the Caledonian Sleeper and has been so since 1873, though the station itself dates back to 1837. Euston is also the southern terminus of Britain's West Coast Main Line and what will soon be the Acton to Aston shuttle. HS2. As part of the works for the latter, there's a lot of change going on. The most noticeable, well, for now anyway, being the external destination screens by the entrance, which I quite like. There's also a lot going on inside as well, but that doesn't stop the extensive passenger flows this station experiences daily, with it seeing almost 50 million passengers a year in normal traffic. All double and club room passengers such as myself are allowed access to the first class lounge, located on the upper level and operated by Avanti West Coast, the main operator on the West Coast Main Line, who I've looked at a number of times on the channel already.
Thank you.
That being said, this is the first time I've actually been into the Euston Lounge, despite taking first class with both Avanti and their predecessor Virgin trains numerous times. I've simply either not had the time or it's just completely slipped my mind to visit. The vibe and atmosphere here is brilliant and everything here is complimentary. There's a wide selection of food and drink, and I treated myself to an almond tart and picked up several soft drinks for the journey ahead. It's a long one. Around half an hour prior to departure, boarding commences. The Caledonian Sleeper is one of two sleeper services in the UK, the other being GWR's Night Riviera from London to Penzance, which I looked at last year. Unlike the Night Riviera, the Caledonian Sleeper is distinguished by two separate services, which operate every day except Saturday. The Lowlander to Edinburgh and Glasgow, which departs at 8:45, and the Highlander, the service we'll be taking, which leaves at 9:15. This operates as three portions, one portion bound for Aberdeen, another to Inverness, and the final portion to Fort William, our destination where we'll arrive tomorrow morning. Between London and Edinburgh, the train is hauled by a Class 92 electric locomotive dating from the 1990s, though this will change to diesel traction later on. The locomotives are provided by GBRF, who are subcontracted to haul the Caledonian Sleeper. Before departure, a ticket check is conducted by the onboard hosts, who will direct you to your carriage.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
As well as being the longest sleeper train in the UK, this is actually one of the longest physical trains in the UK, comprising of 16 Mark 5 coaches built by Spanish manufacturer CAF between 2016 and 2018. These replaced the old British Rail Mark 2 and Mark 3 coaches, which reliably served the Caledonian Sleeper for almost 4 decades. Now, I have travelled on these coaches before on the Lowlander and found them to be a step change in most areas, though they are infamously known for their technical faults and poor design in some areas, but I'll save this for when we get on board. The Caledonian Sleeper was until 4 months ago operated by Serco, and at the time of filming was 2 months into ownership by the Scottish Government, though not much has changed since the handover, such as the retention of the stunning midnight teal livery. What do you think of it? Fortunately, I didn't have to walk too far. I'm based in Coach D tonight, which is part of the set bound for Fort William. With a total journey time of 12 hours and 45 minutes, this is the UK's longest sleeper train by journey duration, though it slightly misses out on miles to the Inverness portion of the train.
Have you travelled with us before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you're in D4?
Yes.
Here. Please fill out your breakfast card before you leave your room and leave it on your door for me.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
When you arrive to your carriage, another host checks you in prior to boarding, after which you're allowed on board to go to your assigned room. Mine in this case being D4. which is a club solo ensuite room.
Ooh, sorry.
As soon as I stepped on board, the heat hit me incredibly hard, though I'll get into this later on. But for now, here's my room, which features a single bunk bed and an ensuite shower. As soon as you enter your room, there's two things you should do straight away. The first being to activate the key card, which grants access to the room. The second being to fill out the breakfast card, as described by the host earlier, which also allows you to choose where and when to have breakfast. Speaking of which, I think it's time to head to the club car for dinner. The club car is where dinner and breakfast is served, and as can be seen, was an incredibly popular part of the train. I was lucky enough to get a seat, though those staying in a club or double room like myself are given priority. I then read through the menu and placed my order just before we departed London for the Scottish Highlands. Our route will see us travel the West Coast Main Line near its entirety, before diverging off to Edinburgh where the train splits. Our set then works its way through to Glasgow and up towards the Scottish Highlands, through the stunning West Highland line, with most stops here being by request. After almost 13 hours of travel time, its journeys end at Fort William at 10 AM UK time. Now sit back and enjoy the ride as we undertake the journey of a nighttime. Our departure from London Euston is 1 minute late at 9:16 UK time. Credit where credit is due, the onboard service is very prompt and the food is brilliant. I went for the baked sea bass with pea voulette, as well as a side of chunky chips. All passengers have to pay for onboard dinner, though breakfast is included in the ticket price. I've linked the menu in the description below. As you can tell from the way my drinks are shaking, the ride quality of these coaches isn't particularly great. And this is only at speeds of close to 90 miles per hour, the maximum speed of the Class 92 locomotives. But are the rooms any better? Well, the room I'm in has a bunk bed which is very comfortable. Normally the top bunk is folded away for solo occupants like me, but strangely this isn't the case tonight. Special mention as well to the incredibly plush pillows. Below the bed is a storage area where you can place your bags and luggage, which is incredibly spacious. You're also greeted to welcome mint chocolates and bottles of Highland spring water. To be honest, I hate mint, but the gesture is there, which is nice. I found the window blind on the Caledonian Sleeper much easier to operate than the Night Riviera. Just below it is a sink, though do be aware the water is not for drinking. Below this is a fold-away table, which further highlights how smart the design of the room is in my opinion. There is also a dock on each deck, where power and USB sockets are located, as well as the buttons to control the window lights and call the host if you need anything. They're very attentive. Oh, and when charging your electronic device, you'll need to place it in the dedicated device holders just next to the power supply. A personal litter bin is present within the room, as well as hooks and coat hangers for those needing to hang up any clothes. And finally, there are towels in the room for use when using the ensuite shower. In here is a toilet that can be folded away when the shower is in use. The design of these trains is very clever, well thought out and generally well executed on this occasion, particularly as I didn't have the infamous lack of hot water issue that is fairly common on the sleeper, though there was that one screw up with the temperature control, which is normally controlled using this dial. Sadly, the new sleeper coaches do have numerous issues, and on my bingo card tonight was the air conditioning and temperature control in my entire carriage failing, which isn't ideal in this heat. This was particularly evident as I left my room and carriage to look around the train a bit more. One key difference to the old sleeper coaches is the addition of spacious accessible toilets, a feature necessary to make the service PRM compliant. These are conveniently located next to the accessible rooms on board. Those travelling in the seated accommodation will appreciate the large amount of luggage space on board for heavier items. There's also generous space for bikes, as a lot of people on board will be needing them for excursions in the Scottish Highlands. As for the seated accommodation itself, I personally find this to be a false economy, though there are exceptions, such as an emergency or if you can't get an acceptable price for a room, the latter unfortunately being more and more common these days, even months in advance. As I had a long day, I returned to my room to kick back, relax, and catch up with one of my favourite YouTubers. On that note, please subscribe if you aren't already. It's free and the best way to support my work. Thanks! Just before midnight, the train arrived at its first stop, Crewe, in the northwest of England. I think now's a better time than any to call it a day and get some rest before ending up in the Scottish Highlands tomorrow morning. But before I do so, let me show you the amenities kit, which is provided to all sleeper berth passengers. You're provided with both an eye mask and earplugs, the latter useful in particular to reduce the noise from the poor ride quality of the Mk5 coaches. And on that note, it's time to close the blind and get some rest. So good night, and I'll see you in the morning.
The next morning.
And a very good morning from the Scottish Highlands, where I've gotten around 7 hours of fairly decent sleep and woken up near the beginning of the West Highland line at Deerstalker. Now let's get some light in here and freshen up with a nice warm shower. Excuse me for a moment. It's still another hour or so before my allocated breakfast slot, so let's just enjoy the amazing scenery that only the West Highland line can offer. We later arrive at Bridge of Orkney Station, a village named after the crossing over the River Orkney, constructed by the British Army following the 1746 Battle of Culloden. It's worth noting that there's relatively little signal in this part of the Highlands, so you may want to connect to the onboard Wi-Fi, though this was okay and not as fast as you'd expect from such a premium product. So let's just go back to the scenery for now. The West Highland line is noted as one of the most scenic railway journeys in the world and truly showcases the natural beauty of Scotland. Wouldn't you agree? At 9:15, it was time for breakfast. I requested this to be served in the club car, though you can have this delivered to your room if you prefer. Service was again very fast and the service by the hosts was top notch. Yogurt and granola certainly feels different with views such as this. As we arrive at Rannoch, we can see a ScotRail West Highland Line local service leaving, bound for Glasgow from Mallaig, at the end of the line. I will be looking at this soon, so do subscribe so you don't miss out. As we ascend further, we can see the weather's now taking a turn for the worst, though this isn't stopping passengers, including myself, from enjoying the stunning journey along the West Highland Line at breakfast. We then proceed to stop at Curragh, the highest station on the UK rail network, at 1,340 feet above sea level. Those of you who are a fan of the film Trainspotting may also recognise this station, and quite a few people got off and on again just to take photos. Closing into Spean Bridge means my 13-hour odyssey on the Caledonian Sleeper is now coming to an end, so I'll take a moment now to summarise the journey. Overall, I really enjoyed my experience on the Caledonian Sleeper. It's a brilliant service and a special mention in particular to the staff who are fantastic on this journey today. But would I say it's worth the price tag? Not particularly. My club solo ensuite room cost me £188, including my railcard discount at the third, which is incredibly expensive considering the Mk5 carriages are frequently plagued with problems, such as the lack of aircon on the journey today. That being said, this wasn't much of an issue north of Crewe, and Caledonian Sleeper did pay me £50 back for the broken temperature control, so I can't really complain much there. And with the view of the Grampian mountain range in the background, the home of Ben Nevis, we arrive into Fort William 5 minutes early. Now I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think of the Caledonian Sleeper? Have you ever rode the Fort William service or the Deerstalker before? Do let me know in the comments below. I'll also be interested to hear if you've ridden the Jacobite steam train to the left, which was sadly fully booked that day, so no video of that for a while, I'm afraid. I do hope you've enjoyed the video today, and if you did, please like and share it to aid the channel's growth, and do consider subscribing and turning on notifications for more content such as this every week. The early arrival meant that I just about made what is probably one of the most impossible bus connections to go further along the West Highland line, and perfect timing before another downpour. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I'll see you next time.